we go. Hello, everyone. This is Apostle Babe Linda James with Matthew today. I tell you every single week that I am your favorite apostate, and every single week I am attempting to brainwash you because that's one
Oh
of the
boy.
techniques that are used. If I just say it over and over and over again, one day it will be true. So that's a form of brainwashing. And if you remember back in the time of, some of you may remember this, we used to have ministry school and we would be judged, literally judged. And one of the things we would be encouraged to do is repetition for emphasis. So that was also part of the teaching. And it doesn't necessarily need to be used as a negative thing like brainwashing. It can be used for when you are wanting to ace a test. You want to pass a test, make some, cue cards, a little bit of cue cards, and come up with the definition of certain words. You write the name on one side, the definition on the other side. The more you repeat that, the more you're going to remember that. So that's also helpful. But yeah, so that's my little tongue-in-cheek thing that I want to convince everybody that I'm their favorite apostate. So whether I am or not, I'm here. It is Saturday night. It is the 6th of December. We are in the last month of this year.
And the
It's
final part
amazing.
of the final part of the final days.
Of the final part of the last days. Exactly. It was right. Brother Let has got a gift of speaking in that. I'll never forget it. And I remember quoting that to my mother. I could hear her smile, like, like she loved it. And I'm thinking how ridiculous it is, but she loves it.
Yeah.
So, music to her words. I mean, music to her ears. But
Yeah. Let's hope he didn't let her down.
when you think of somebody that is totally convinced of something that you don't see as reality, it's kind of like they have a crush on someone or they're newly in love. And there's nothing we can do to talk somebody out of being newly in love with someone. Okay. You can say, but they have thorns growing out of their neck. And that's a sign of, I don't know, maybe they're a tree. Oh, I thought they were so becoming. I thought they were cute. Like that's how they're going to react to you. If you point out anything that's odd or should be a red flag. And this is another thing I want you to think about. When you're wearing rose-colored glasses, which is a term meaning, like you're infatuated or you're in love, all of the red flags look gray when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. So red flags are not going to stand out to them. We'll see them and they'll stand out like a neon sign going, danger, danger, danger. But to them, it's just a gray flag passing by and they don't think nothing of it because they're in a different state of reality. So when we love someone and we're hoping that they might leave something that we find dangerous for them, it's best to talk to them more about who they authentically are rather than putting down, say, the governing body or putting down the belief systems of the religion. But if you draw out things about them that is uniquely different or good memories, such as remember back when we used to do this or that or the other, and it brings them back to a time of you guys associating together and the good times of that. Or when you saw them being maybe a certain gift of theirs. Like, for instance, my mother even her handwriting is amazingly beautiful. She can paint, and it's just beautiful. So if I talk to her about her gifts of painting and things like this, it reminds her of who she authentically is. And that's something that doesn't get any cult or any destructive cult, any kind of a damaging relationship wants to keep their followers as busy as possible, to where they have no time for nobody else but them. Okay, that's the way a narcissist is. They are getting all of their energy off of what they consider a supply. So when I look at my mother, I consider she's a supply for this organization, and they're depleting her. This is how I look at it. Whether that is the case or not, that's how I see it. And again, like I've said before, the things I talk about here on this channel are my opinions. And yes, they might be presented to you like I'm teaching them to you, but if they do not ring true to you, let them just fly over your head. If they ring true to you, give it some thought, take what you like and leave the rest. I'm not here to coerce you. But what rings true, great. What doesn't, let it pass you by, because I speak opinion. Same thing about Matthew. The things he shares here, I appreciate them. Some of the stuff I can't even follow, Matthew's sharing some amazing stuff that I've never thought to share, right? So we can just take what we like and leave the rest. So same thing with Matthew or anybody else who comes on here and gives their opinion. So yeah. So when you're wanting to help someone leave a destructive relationship or group, or you see something that's not good for them, that's toxic, remind them who they are, because that's what's going to bring them back to yearning to have time, and bring back more time to them being who they are, them being their gifts, and them being their unique. And like Matthew brought this out a couple of shows, over the last couple of shows, he's used it eclectic, own eclectic style. So that's something we bring up to people that we might see as being in danger. And you know what? When I showed up tonight, thank you for being here. We've got Happy Thoughts. We've got Dallas. We've got Matthew in the comment section. Thank you. There's a few other Johns here. And it shows 8 people here. So some of you are just kind of relaxing and listening, which is great. I'm all for that as well. But let me check in with Matthew. How did your week go, Matthew? What's been going on with you?
Well, thanks for asking, Linda James. I struggled through the week, be it trauma or be it recovering from the hypoxia things and all the other accumulated issues. But despite these difficulties, I feel in my inner spirit pretty joyful and pretty happy, if that makes sense. So the pain's there. It just is what it is. The difficulties are what they are, without getting too graphic. But I feel that, this kind of community and the interactions that we have during the week, they're really fabulous. I really value it very, very much. So
thank you. I think so too. Like tapping into John and Fran, their show on Wednesday nights, which, by the way, Fixing My Faith, that channel Fixing My Faith, I want to bring up that we are getting close to the time for him to have his operation. He has a GoFundMe, so that if any of us have any income to donate, which actually this is the time of year that a lot of people do donate in December, the end of the year, that if it's on your heart, if you're financially able to, if you can donate to Vern's GoFundMe, which you'll be able to find at xjwfriends.com. So keep that in mind. And even I asked on the last show with Joe and Fran if it's still going to remain available for us to donate afterwards, after his operation. And from what I understand, the insurance that they have there in Canada doesn't cover this certain condition, and it's very painful. So Vern doesn't seem like somebody who cries over much and nothing, and I haven't seen any tears, but what I read about his condition, I almost cried for him. Okay. It's like painful, 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 and we don't want him to remain in that pain. So even though it hasn't reached the goal, we can still donate. So it's one of those things that you can choose to go to when you do have the money. It's not like something that you would sign up for and it would give a certain amount every month. So whatever's on your heart, let's keep Vern in mind and donate to that if we can. And yeah, that's what I wanted to mention.
I liked your mug, Linda James.
My mug.
What is it? Keep living your life with love. Now, tell us a little bit about this mug, if you don't mind. I know I sort of surprised you a bit there.
Yes, and you know what? I actually grabbed this mug tonight so that I would show it. So thanks for asking. So I got this from the merch portion of Fixing My Faith. And this is one of their designs that they put on shirts and whatever else they have. And Vern will end every single show he does by saying, living your life with love, to live your life with love. And you know what? It's in spite of whatever he brings up, because he'll bring up some pretty heavy stuff, especially things that have been going on within courts and abuse that's been happening, and it's pretty devastating. And myself, my motto is love is always louder. And what I mean by that is, in spite of the stuff that can come at us, or the crap that people try to give us, or the stuff that we're viewing and it's devastating, I believe that love can be louder than the negative. So by him always saying, live your life with love, is just so positive. And I've also noticed that Joe and Fran, their show that they do on Wednesday night, Joe has been voluntarily saying, live your life with love. And it's actually came very natural to him. It doesn't sound like anybody told him to do it either. So that's been pretty cool. So
a good motto.
It is,
like
isn't it? Yeah, it is. Now my adopted Apasta son, whom I've adopted through love, he has a channel called JW Thoughts, and his name is Wally. He ends his show saying, now go have a good day and love the things you love and hate the things you hate, and go have a good ass day, or something like that. And I love his ending too.
Good.
Go have a good ass day. And I'm like, yep, that's my son right there. So proud of him. And he's even done, oh my God, he's done a couple of shows where he says, and this is what I think of this. He literally turns himself around to show his butt with clothing on, shows his butt like basically he's farting to the camera or something, like making eat ass or what, I don't know, but it's so great. He is like above the usual person talented. He used to do a lot of sketches and stuff where he would dress up as somebody else and do different characters. I was mentioning that Ryan Cultastic, she's talented that way too. We all have our gifts, even those out there that are A personalities. By the way, a month or so ago, Linda had joined me and talked to us about her niece and the death of her niece. She's an A personality. She dots every I, crosses every T, and we need these kind of people in our lives. If you put me in a position where I had to do that, I'd probably break out in hives because I just can't.
Okay.
I just can't. But the people that comes natural to, we need them. You know what I mean? And when we tap into who we uniquely are and realize that we have these different characteristics, different gifts, different strengths that can be utilized, it's very helpful. It helps you as well develop your own sense of self, your own sense of identity. Those of us that were born into this organization and have left the organization, that's really what our responsibility is to develop who we authentically are, because I believe that was pretty much squashed and was not able to grow within the organization. So this is our time to be able to develop who we authentically are. So yeah, think about things that you're drawn to. Think about different interests that you have that you see. So I know other people that are into sports. I'm not into sports at all. None of my kids were into sports at all, and so I didn't get into that. But if they were, I would have been right there watching them do all this stuff to support them and to back them up. But find out things that bring you joy and involve yourself in them. And what really seems foreign is to involve yourself with things regarding your city, like maybe getting involved in like the Kiwanis Club, or there's a few things that will be in certain cities that have you involved in different functions within different clubs within the city. And what that helps you do is meet other people in your city, in your town, that do these different jobs or own, business owners and things like that. And it just helps you become more aware of what's going on in your town and their thoughts about it. And then maybe you can share some of your thoughts. And it's places like these where decisions are made, where maybe there's a problem in town and they want to talk about it and then maybe bring it up at a town meeting. Maybe the town has a meeting, a city meeting where they can bring it up and ask what can be done. And then things like that can even lead to certain laws changing. You might be involved in something like that. This is politics. It can be very, very deceptive and deceiving. But then if you check it out, you can see for yourself if some of this influence that you want to give might actually affect a change, so give that some thought too. Some people are all about being involved in something like that, and others might not, So let yourself be drawn, let yourself pursue some of the things that you are drawn towards. Okay. There's a whole bunch of hellos. Happy thoughts, so they don't notice the toxicity of the message. Yep. Sometimes we don't. And Tori, hi Tori. I'm driving home from work. Right on. I can remember listening to different shows when I was driving. Oh, that's too cool. His cat joins in too. Oh, John, you're fighting a cold. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope it doesn't stick with you too long. I'm glad you guys are here. So, I'm going to hand it over to Matthew to talk about whatever's on your mind.
Well, I saw Dallas is in the background as well. He was on 6 screens, or he was in the background 6 screens. So yeah, I saw him chirping in the comments. I'm actually transmitting from a cell phone here, Linda James.
Oh, okay.
I've been struggling with machines. I've had machines go down and had to deal with technicians and things like this. So please bear with
Okay.
me if I'm not so with it with the comments. I saw Sheila chirping just now, and I'll do my best to try and sort of catch up. But we were talking earlier about this complaint jury trial that's been demanded. Am I correct there, Linda James? Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
So I received, I think the XJW community or the apostate community, or those that have been booted out, or however you want to call yourself, witness emergent or active JW, whatever. But I got a couple of calls from the heart of the system, which is what happens for whatever reason. And I was sent a document on the 26th, but I believe the community had it already on the 24th. And
Right.
it was titled Case 125 CV 09458, filed on the 12th of November 2025. There's 33 pages, but it is United States District Court, Southern District of New York complaint. And it looks like a pretty high profile case. At first, I was in disbelief, but it came from the heart of the branch. And of course, my first thought is skepticism, because I say, well, you know, if we say on these channels or on these shows, approach things with the thesis, antithesis for synthesis, always have essential critical thinking and healthy skepticism. When you're presented with a document in this day and age, you kind of got to question it. So I looked it up on law.com, and it's
Excellent.
appearing there.
Okay.
It's appearing there. And of course, it is here's the big code. If you can all see this,
Right.
see what you see here. So again,
Okay.
it's abuse, but it's atrocious, because to me, in my humble opinion, I look at it as a power play. I look at it
Okay.
as those that are installed into positions of authority who have got these lousy profiles.
Okay.
And yeah, it happened. It happened at an assembly by the looks of things. And it happened
Okay.
by a person in a position of trust, a circuit overseer. So it's come to a head because, of course, if you have an organization that is adept at defending its authorities or making sure that birds of a feather flock together and are put into positions of oversight, because there is this distorted idea that those that are forgiven much will love more. Well, it's a tainted kind of love, if you want to quote Marilyn Manson, one of his songs, Tainted Love. That was a cover song. I think this is exactly what you've got, because it looks like a power play. It looks like this individual was so brazen that they felt that they could do whatever they wanted at an assembly hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. And so now it comes to a head, and now the world is looking on to see, well, what kind of spin is your legal department going to pull here? Because this looks like it is gross misuse of power. And I don't know what else to say, Linda James.
So there was a child involved, and see, if this was a female child, female children within this organization are raised to always do what men say, whether they're, especially our fathers or our husbands, but at the same time, any other man in the congregation, we're pretty much supposed to do what they say. And if we have somebody in our lives that holds a position of authority, we would also do what they say as well. I mean, that's what we were taught. And that would be for young kids, male or female, to take the instructions of somebody, especially in a leadership position. And when you think of a situation where there might be some CSA abuse, sometimes people wonder, where were her parents? You know, let me just say this, and I don't know if this is the case in this case, but what I've come to notice with perpetrators is they tend to go into situations where there's a bit of vulnerability. So it might be a single mother as opposed to a child that has a mother and a father and a lot of family members, or, you know, they see a bit of a vulnerability and might offer to take the child off their hands. Okay. And that offering is presented as such that it's going to help the child spiritually grow. And of course, any parent is about helping their child spiritually grow. So I can see this happening, even though somebody might wonder, why would anybody let a child go off with a gentleman, a grown gentleman, you know, a grown adult that's a male? Let's think about it. This is a man of authority. And the way we were taught is that those that carry authority in this organization, and this person is above elders, they were all placed there by Holy Spirit. So any kind of direction parents as adults would be guided to do, we receive that as almost direction from Jehovah. Okay. So the way things are set up in our own thinking as a Jehovah's Witness, I picture this kind of a situation falling easily, like it can easily happen. I'm not saying that's the case in this situation with what Matthew's talking about, but in general, this could happen. And it could happen in other situations that have that kind of hierarchy, that have that kind of setup to where women and children are not valued as much as the men are. So it's kind of like one of those situations, like, yes, men might speak of themselves as being equal to women, but men seem to be more equal than women sometimes. So women are kind of left out. So we might see things very clearly today because of the homework we've done, but let's think about this. There's a lot of things that the women are never informed about. There's definitely a lot of things that the children are not informed about as far as how a process would go or what would be wrong. So we find out on a need to know basis. So we don't find out until we need to know. We're just going along in life thinking we're good, and all of a sudden we're talked to and informed that this behavior is not okay, or doing that looks bad, or this could bring reproach upon Jehovah. You don't want to stumble some of the sisters, but you don't know about it until you've done something that you thought was just fine. That's on a need to know basis. You don't recall it ever being in one of the magazines. You don't recall it ever being taught from the platform. What are your thoughts, Matthew?
I've got to tell you, Linda James, that because I was contacted a couple of times by the Heart of the Beast, and I don't mean to alarm anybody in the audience. It's just what's happening. When I got this thing, it knocked me down. Actually, I actually went back into my struggling to speak again. So
Okay.
I think there was Fran and Joe. I couldn't participate. It was very, very difficult. And funnily enough, it wasn't because this thing is repeating on my mind. I think it was on a subconscious level or something. I can't explain it, but I know when I received this thing, I was finished, and I was called upon to do a report yesterday, the 6th of the month. And I was going to tie in police again, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And I thought, you know what? All I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in a witness, and I'm going to tie in somebody that is part of a congregation legal channel. I'm just going to get this thing out and make the report as imperfectly as I can and just try and get it out. And funnily enough, it did bring down some of the pressure somewhat. Maybe this sounds very, very weird to the audience or even to you, Linda James. I'm just reporting the truth of my experience. And I believe it was something to do with this case because it reminds me of the dysfunction in the procedures that exists right now here in South Africa and replicated in many parts of the world. Because what are you told to do when you're indoctrinated in this program? What are you told to do? And here I could see, and it's anybody that's in the know, I think there is a lot of chatter over this now in the past week. I see a destruction of at least one child. We see a survivor child, a survivor of 1213. This was in the year 2012. But we had the loss of a life. I mean, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we're told that life starts at conception. Yes. So we already lost somebody from that point of view.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So this is a disaster. Now, what are we told to do in that system? We're told, oh, if you're in some leadership position as an elder, Matt Gray, well, you got to get on the phone to the branch and ask them to put you through to service desk, and service desk says, what's this about? And then they put you through to legal, or they might not call it that, but there would be a legal thing happen. There's a legal thing happening that side that you might not be aware about.
Okay.
But do you have legal representation this side? No, you don't. And let me tell you, the chances are that you're on a record. Usually they would say, oh, by the way, can we put you on a record? But when they play music, the chances are that you would be on that. Exactly. Because all they could say is, oh, did we forget to tell you? Oh, they're not obliged to. They're not obliged to always do that. They did do that with me when contributing in writing desk or research. They would say to me, Matt, can we record you and can we give you the little code name or whatever? And I would say yes, but I'd soon discovered that wasn't always the case. So you're now vulnerable phoning them. Then they give you an instruction. Now, Matt Gray is going over his years of service. He says, okay, well, I'm going to memo exactly what we're talking about. And I'm going to send it to you. And I recognize your voice, which they hate that because they don't want their voices.
Right. Recognized. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm going, yeah, well, I recognize your voice, so-and-so. And he goes, oh, I wish you wouldn't do that. I go, well, I know who you are. Well, they've changed the whole system now, but that's what I did. And I'd memo them and I would email them because I'm going, enough is enough is enough. The fact is, I learned enough about the branch and I had enough relationships to be able to call by name. And I'm saying, no, it's time to actually create a pathway of accountability. This is no good that this is carrying on. But I'm really laying it on thick for the audience to say, well, if you are trying this system and you're in this position where you've witnessed it or you're trying to protect the vulnerable, how many go to this extent? This is very rare that you would try a Matt Gray approach. It's very rare that you'd have somebody, very, very rare. So I'm going, well, if you've got somebody who's equipped, who's trained, having this kind of difficulty, what on God's green earth is going to happen in a situation like this case where there's somebody who's trying to get some justice or some kind of protection? Well, I'll tell you what happened to me. I'll tell you what happened. I write and use registered post, which is a legal system, using registered post for documents. I go, well, this happened in the congregation. That happened. I phone service desk. Here's the memo. Here's the instructions. This is the person I spoke to. And I emailed them, and you can see there's some back and forth chatter in the emails. I've got all that. And now I'm sending it to the branch again. And you know what I discover, Linda James?
What?
That on the registered post, it's sitting in the post office.
Never
and it
picked
gets
up?
sent back.
Wow.
Gets sent back. They haven't picked it up. So they are telling persons on jw.org, oh, write to us. Write to us. And this hasn't just happened once. I'm not just going, oh, I attempted this once. No. And I didn't just attempt this with one branch. Again, I'm laying this on thick to show to what degree somebody who's vulnerable, who isn't trained, is up against.
Yes.
So here's the next move. I now use courier. Instead of the postal system, I use courier, and I now direct it to persons within the heart of the system. I now see their signature, and I've got the receipt. But then I take it a step further, and I phone my pal, and I say, tell me, are you standing with a governing body member now? Yes. All right. Good. Can you relay a message? No, it doesn't work that way, man. Okay. Yeah, they're terrified. They're frightened. I say,
Sure.
okay, all right, got it. I'm going to contact somebody else then. I'm going to contact somebody on the service desk for governing body or branch committee or research. And now we're going to process. I don't give up. If you cannot speak to a governing body person, and yes, I understand, I've been in the same position myself, I'm going to use another route. But then I'm going to make sure there is a name. I'm going to make sure there is a time. If it's a first name, I'm going to record the first name. You don't want to disclose your second name? Fine. This is the extent that things went to. I got to the extent that personnel in fiduciary responsibility as directors in the organization are on a speakerphone speaking with me, saying, do not disclose our names. We want people to see that Jehovah is in control of the situation, and that whatever direction is coming from Jehovah, which essentially means it's coming from, what do we say, people, humans, men? Well, we leave that to the audience to determine, but this is how far it went. And so now I've got a recording of who's involved. You could recognize the voices, but you need to have a third party appointed, evidential committee that's approved by your country's enforcement agencies and your legal agencies to say, yes, that's an enclosed, approved evidentiary or evidentiary confirmation body. Because if you hand it out just on public on the internet, you can be charged for dispensing confidential information, even if it's true. Even if you've applied Matthew 18, well, technically speaking, you should be free from any kind of non-disclosure. If there is a potential crime or an allegation, you should actually be free. But the thing is, the real world doesn't work that way. It snags you up more and more and more. So you've now got to be very, very careful, and you've got to now break through either with ombudsman, or if the police don't want to act, that you have gone up the chain of commissioners, and now you've gone to the governmental legal protection agencies that actually watchdogs the police if they are feeling that they are threatened, or they don't want to get involved in these kind of things because they're aware of what happens when cases reach Supreme Courts and they say, see, we don't want to touch this. We don't want to touch it. We've got other things that we want to, So I don't know, Linda James, if that has really laid on a thick picture from beginning to end of what occurs when somebody faces one of these awful
Yes.
situations,
Yes.
one of these awful situations, and they're trying to seek justice, or they're trying to seek protection, or they're told you've got to return to the Kingdom Hall and you've got to sit there in the presence of the people that have harmed you,
Right,
because
right.
you're now underage. This is a deplorable situation. So what I have painted here is, I have painted a real life situation. I have imparted a lived experience that persons can check. I mean, people know where I live. They know my name. I'm traceable.
Right.
I'm vulnerable. And I can say that this is where we've got to, and it has got to governing body level. And now I get sent this kind of information coming to compound it and to say, Matt, you want to know something? We will share with you how snowed under we are. We are victims of systems upon systems upon systems upon systems built over 140 years, where we had to answer to trust funds, where we had to answer to other instrumentalities to look after properties, that had to look after resource recovery, that went where there's trust fund hoops to jump through. And we are so stuck. We actually, how can we tell you this, Matt? We're giving you this thing because we want you to go to the police. And you're going, what? Yeah, we want you to break through the system, or contribute at least. It might just be the butterfly wing that creates the necessary tornado, or the tipping point. And I think that's what this is, Linda James. These kind of conversations, your channel, the various other channels, the more persons that chat in the chat boxes, in the live chat boxes, or the live streams, or that decide to come over and say, listen, can we come and talk with you, Linda James, live? It's all adding up to break through this wall. That's the hope. Because if it doesn't, we are going to destroy ourselves.
What would be the purpose? Thank you for that. What would be the purpose of them handing you something that you believe might even be handed to you for you to bring to the police? What would be the purpose for that? Yes, they might not be able to do it positionally, whatever position, whoever it is that sent that to you. What would be the benefit for them? Is that kind of a cry for help? Like,
my first thought was skepticism. I went to go and check it. I wanted to see, hang on a second, if they have willingly sent this over, there must have been a leak somewhere else, because why are they doing this? This must have got out of control already. So I took a look at the date, and I received it on the 26th of November, for anybody who wants to check this, because I suspect that it was out on the 24th of November. So I feel like I was 2 days behind. And I think that's important. So you might go, oh, Matt, you're not with it. I'm not asking for this information. I'm just going, this is interesting that it came. I believe that I might be right or wrong, but I believe that the community of the various networks of survivors from this particular organization, I think that they're very with it with what's going on. And I suspect they were 2 days ahead. I suspect this thing was exposed on the 24th of November. I got it on the 26th of November. So either it was one, for the branch to trace who is it in the heart of the system that is in communication with Matt. But I don't get that vibe. I get the vibe that it's younger persons have come into positions of oversight, who've discovered they've inherited the worst books ever. But they already committed to saying, oh, I'll be a fiduciary, and nobody wants to take over, and they can't get out of it. That's what I believe has happened.
Yes, the younger ones are, dedicated, and if they blow, as Scientology calls it, which would mean leave the organization. Usually a younger one is not equipped with a place to live, a car to drive, a phone in their name, their own, like they have the copy of their own birth certificate, social security card. So if they're found out, they might be kicked out, lose their job. Parents will turn their back on them because they're being loyal to Jehovah. And they're like, it's like they're dropped. Joyce Taylor. She says it's like being dropped off in China and told to find your way home. So we don't know how to function outside of the institution that they're in or we're in. And often when people, even if they're choosing to leave and have been looking forward to leaving, and they cut their ties, let's say they wrote a letter of disassociation, that does not mean that someone will not go through what is called institutional syndrome. This is something that you may have heard people that were in jail might go through when they leave jail, where they got 3 meals a day, they had a place to sleep, they were on a routine, this, that, and the other. And when they tried to assimilate into society at large, it was very foreign to them and they didn't know how to do it. So the institution they were in, even though it was oppressive and toxic, they knew it well. That was their norm. Coming out here, like being dropped off in China and told to find your way home, a lot of socially unacceptable things happen. And we get consequences. Someone's yelling at us and we don't know why. We're being reprimanded. We didn't know that saying that is not nice.
Yeah.
So there's that. So that's the last thing somebody wants to go into. So yeah, that possibility could be the case. Yes, it definitely could be a case, because then they're actually using some of their own position, whether they want to be in it or not. I think it's called a mole, when someone is a mole, where they release information without revealing who they are, their identity, because
it's a very difficult thing to get to a conclusion. I'm not conclusive about it. I look at it and I just go, it's chaos. And I say to them directly, I said, Jesus, if you're supplying this is just indicating. And they're just going, yeah, man, this is what we've always been talking about. It's a mess. It's chaotic. And we're talking about people who have taken over from coordinators and branch committee members. We're talking about within the religion, high profile. I don't know who was talking about today. I think it could have been in the after chat and Rick Fearon's after chat.
Six
it
could be after hours.
Yeah, I think Maverick is pops up a lot, and it could have been him. And he was saying, "Oh, who's had a lot of Bible studies that they brought into the religion?" I didn't get an opportunity to say that, but I have, and a lot of them are on the circuit, or a lot of them are in positions of oversight. It's just, it happened by default, or it happened organic. But if you say to me, Matt, do you feel free from that? No, I feel beholden because I played a part in the training. So I go, when I've said to persons, oh, you're spiritual family, I remember I was a believer. I had that commitment. I've always said, okay, right, well, I don't suddenly drop you now. Because of the circumstances or the weird circumstances that I'm in. Do I just suddenly drop you? Do I suddenly drop my commitments? Or I go, hang on, I still live by the supreme ethic, you reap what you sow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if I encourage you to be where you are, well, there is some kind of responsibility for me to play a part. If you're reaching out to me and you're saying help, well, then I'm going to say to you, yeah, if you're going to be straight with me, then we've got to put a few things on the record as well. Let's
Yes.
start talking about some deeper things that are uncomfortable. And let's see what you're all about. Because if you're prepared to talk with me on that level, I am going to view that as a test.
Okay.
If you're prepared to be on the record, then you are committed. You are committed with me. But I'm also going to give you a promise. I'm going to give you a promise to help. So, yeah, I need something from you so that,
Hmm.
that there is trust. And yeah,
It
I haven't.
goes both ways. Yes.
Yeah, I'll say that the fact that you've reached out to me, you already know my character. Yeah, I
Hmm.
haven't changed, but I also
Right.
need something from you right now. I need you to start committing. It's going to be good for you, and it's going to be a foundation for us to be able to continue. Because this is so serious, it is affecting people's lives. Like this case that's here. This is only one that's been able to emerge
And
out of many.
from what I recall, this was a involving the one you have in front of you, a 12-year-old child who also ended up pregnant and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, had a miscarriage. And yet, she had to go through all of this and not tell anybody. Or if she did, there wasn't much that could be done. To go through that as an adult, um, just a miscarriage in of itself is traumatic, and it takes a toll on the body and this, that, and the other. So a 12-year-old child having to go through this must have been very hard for her. Um, this is another thing I want to bring up. The people within, I've come to find within this organization, mainly I'm going to talk about elders. From what I understand is elders are asked, is there any reason why we should not appoint you as an elder?
Yeah.
Which would give the possible elder a chance to use their conscience, or
Okay.
maybe this is something, a position they've yearned for quite a long time, as they've been nurtured or groomed to become an elder because they were a ministerial servant for so long. And now they've added the question, have you ever been involved in any CSA? This
Right.
didn't used to be asked, but now it is. And then they can answer. Now, that's their vetting, okay? This is their vetting process. That,
Okay.
okay? Um, and then they decide whether they're going to make this person an elder or not. And what happens after this is they get sent to elder school. And what is elder school? It's like, I believe, 2 days where they actually learn how to use the book, Shepherd the Flock of God. So they're taught how to use the elder's manual. This is how an elder is equipped to become an elder. They're also told certain things, such as statements that says that you are in a position that's a bit higher than, say, maybe the rank and file person of the congregation. So they're told things that let them know that positionally they're a bit higher, they're a bit more valued, and how they're viewed in God's eyes, how the angels view them. So they do that as well. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, if I get it all wrong, any of it wrong. So as they're learning different ways, or they're going through the process, there's also certain things that they're asked to write on the side, where they can make notes that they're taught in the elder school, but it's really not in the book. They're told to write it out. And yes, they're supposed to follow what they've been told to write out in their own handwriting. They're the one that writes it. And they're supposed to be held accountable for these things. But this makes it to where the organization itself won't be held accountable for whatever the elder school has told them to write on the side, that they have to, or are informed that this is the way that they're expected to behave. So I believe that's like maybe a weekend or 2 days. So they go from there to back to the congregation, and they're with a group of men called an elder body, and they're kind of the newer ones. So they're also learning from other elders and things on how things are done. this is, in my opinion, this is not enough to equip a person, and in this case, it's always men, to be able to have a position, a pastoral position, to serve in a congregation of people that have all these different personalities and all these different situations that come up where they're guided and instructed that if these things happen, to come to the elders, to talk to the elders. We're here to help you in these different circumstances. And then they find out later that they did go to the elders, but it turned into an interrogation session, which they didn't even see coming. Now, then the elders end up getting information from whatever person came to them. Now, the elders themselves, yes, they go by the book, but part of this book is also telling them that they must call headquarters. The reason I'm talking about this, gentlemen, is because if you are an elder out there, this is positionally done for the leadership of this organization to not be held responsible, but for you to be thrown under the bus if necessary. I'm not saying it's always going to happen, but if necessary, if this ever goes to court. Okay? When you call Bethel, okay, you do not get the name of who you're speaking to. It used to be you called the legal department. Now it's called the service department. Either way, they do not give their names. So you're not going to be able to say, I spoke to brother so-and-so when I called Bethel, and this is what happened, if you're ever questioned in a courtroom setting. You don't have this information. But it has set things up for the organization. All of this benefits the organization. It equips them with all the info that's necessary, okay? So I dare say this is set up in such a way that it serves the organization above you as a person. Now, ordinary Christian churches, and I'm not saying they're 10 times any better, but they are better in cases where people have to go to what is called seminary school, okay? They go to this college for maybe 2-3 years. And not only do they learn theology, which is the study of the God of the Bible, but they get lessons in psychology. They get lessons in sociology. So psychology is the study of human and animal behavior. Sociology is the study of how certain cultures function. So if we have somebody at our church come to us and they're of a different culture than, say, maybe it's a Caucasian pastor, they might have a little bit of knowledge of, say, maybe someone from India, an Indian from India, they might have a little bit of knowledge. So they would be more prepared to have a talk with them and to lead them spiritually because of those things and their study of the Bible. What happens with Jehovah's Witnesses and elders is they go by the manual and they're not as equipped as, say, the ordinary pastor in mainstream Christianity, okay? Now, both places CSA happens. That's just the case. But my thing is that elders, if you're listening to me now, please note that when things ever get taken to court and the lawyer says that you had to follow certain directions because that's what the elders book said, I've personally seen in court where the lawyers that the Jehovah's Witness organization sends out, Tyler, black gentleman, has said, actually, they can follow their own conscience. Like they will deny that you are expected to follow what the book says, okay? Which is how you've lived your elder life, because if you didn't, you would not be an elder any longer. So please note that they get to have deniability, and you will be held responsible for doing as you were instructed. And I don't think that's done by accident. And I don't think that the leadership has your best interest in mind. So please keep that in mind. And again, This is what I've observed. These are my opinions. I believe there needs to be more done to equip elders. Now, let me just say my opinion about the White House here in the United States. Okay. We have people in positions of authority at the White House that I don't believe are positionally equipped to handle certain positions in the White House. And they don't handle them well. And then the president says things when he's asked about certain situations that have happened. The president doesn't know anything about it. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And we have people in high positions here in the United States that are not equipped to handle these positions. Okay. And it's, for me, it's terrifying to watch because I know that these people are not equipped. But when you give someone a label and they go by their own wisdom, yet they have not been trained to handle a position that they were assigned to do, there's going to be a lot of failure. Okay. I'm simply a hairdresser. When I watch a movie and I see somebody take scissors and hold it like this and cut their own hair, and you see the hair dropping, and then they show the next scene where the hair looks great. First off, this is not how scissors are held when you do hair. We held his scissors with this finger right here and this thumb right here. This is hair cutting technique. So if somebody plays a hairdresser on TV and they're doing this with two hands, I know that they don't know how to be a hairdresser. Like things like this show up and stand out like a neon sign to me. And they might show up like a neon sign to you as well. So it's concerning, you know. You are taking, Matthew, you are writing notes and you are keeping track of what's going on. What I've also noticed is that if an elder takes notes during a, let's say, a judicial meeting or even an elders meeting, they don't get to keep their notes and hold them personally. It gets taken away. Or like if there's a judicial committee and somebody is questioned on some certain situation, they have to give the notes over and then they're put into an envelope.
That's right.
That doesn't serve the elder. So if the elder's thinking about this situation 4 days later, it would be nice if they could pull out their notes and be able to go, flip, because things register differently a few days later. And then they might make it. It would be helpful for the elder, but it isn't set up in that way now, is it? It's set up in that way where you continuously are not equipped.
Yeah. You see, you've got a tremendous insight. As I'm listening to you, Linda James, you would be able to instruct circuit overseers with the amount of info. What did you just say? You were putting things in hairdresser terms because they say,
Yes.
"Oh, you're just a hairdresser."
Mm-hmm.
as a menial label, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can hold a circuit overseer class, Linda James. You can advise lawyers because of your insight as a survivor. You have a tremendous, you just decompiled something that I gave you about my lived experience, and you decompiled. You're not confused about this. You know exactly the dynamic that's going on.
Yes.
Yeah, more than even some circuit overseers that they're living in Gaga land. There's some who know exactly what's going on, and there's some who just have no idea. They're so compartmentalized. Yeah, they token circuit overseers. They don't really know what's going on.
Some of them are just so trusting. They, of course, the leadership wouldn't lead us in the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
Kind of mindset. Mm-hmm.
Now, in my weird life, I was chairman of most of those judicial or elders committee. The other thing too is I believe I had above board people with me generally, and it was only recently I collided with somebody I thought was on board who absolutely wasn't. I would go so far as to say is the equivalent of the JW Mafia. That's
Ah,
for
okay.
want of a better expression, illustratively. Okay.
Yes.
I thought I'm working with this person, I'm corresponding with them for years, only to discover that they're holding back that information, or this is they used it to further their career.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. So yeah, so the notes that you're talking about, you're right on point about it. So I'm thinking, with all of these notes and things, I'm handling it. I'm making sure it's confidential. And the persons who I would say are, let's say, legitimate, are coming to me. Oh, Matt, I sent you that note. Do you happen to remember what was in that note? And I'm trying to push computer brain as far as I can to the point of burnout. And I'm going, yeah, I actually know it was on such and such a date. And you said this, and you said, wow, that's the Holy Spirit at work.
It could be, or it could be your good memory too, Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this is why burnout, this is eventually crank and burn, when eventually he's just, you can't actually sustain this. It's not humanly possible to sustain it at this level
Right.
for so long. But I think what you've done essentially, Linda James, is you've decompiled exactly the situation. You mentioned now the local elders, because I think in this particular case, this is what we were talking about, this particular case that's been filed, this big one.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
been filed. What happened? Because it's on the submission form, the elders grouped together to protect Mr. Circuit Overseer.
Of course.
That's what they did.
Think of it. Rank and file people, elders, and then circuit overseers above here. There's an expectation that the elders that are in a lower position will do whatever possible to protect the circuit overseer, because positionally he is higher in the hierarchy and holds a position of more authority. These elders answer to this circuit overseer, right?
Yeah. So my argument when I went to the police, I said, I went with the brothers. I said, you cannot form an elders committee in this particular case where we've got witnesses, where now we've had to involve the police. This is why you've created this loop back system, and you're stuck. And you can't eliminate me, because if you eliminate me completely, then it forces police to take it an extra step further. So it's created this awful impasse situation. But yeah, this is exactly what they were doing. They were going, oh, you've got a grudge against this brother or whatever. And again, yeah, but did you release the evidence to the entire circle of the elders? If you are conducting an elders investigation, or you are now appointing brothers as the investigation, you better make sure that there isn't appointments of persons that have a conflict of interest. That's number one. And in this particular case, they do. They are controlling the narrative. You have selected persons who are invested into the case. You can't. You've disqualified yourself. You've got no authority. You say you're an elder, but you are disassociated according to Timothy and Titus, your qualifications. You've gone beyond your mandate because you crossed the line in this particular case. You became complicit to help somebody here. And you can't say there wasn't any evidence. The evidence, you tried to suppress it. You tried to suppress the witnesses. You said, oh, no. It's the elders that are controlling this narrative. You're not allowed to bring in your witnesses. You're all told by Matthew 18 and your OD book that, yes, you can bring in witnesses. But in practice, it is not happening.
That's right.
And the only way to prove it is if you record what's going on, which you deny. And I said, but in my case, I'm an experienced transcriber. So here's the transcript. Oh, we don't believe that you're transcribing. Here it is. Read it. Yeah, yep. This is what happened. Is this what your statement was just now? Hey, Joe, Is that what he said just now? Oh, crumbs, man.
See what
That's
we're
a
talking
breach of
about?
confidence.
No, you are positioned to where you have set things up to where you can hold them accountable.
They screwed. They are so screwed. But
I
I'm
take
also screwed at the same time because they're going, oh, well, we're going to charge you with a breach of confidentiality. I say, but how do you charge me with that? Because isn't our charter based upon the 2013 New World Translation Revised Bible? Isn't that our rule book? Isn't that our code of conduct? Just like you would send to any other publisher in any other corporation, you send them a rule book of how to behave in that administration. So in this administration, you said if you don't listen, according to Matthew 18:15-35, whether a person agrees with doctrine or not, that's the rule book, code of conduct for the institution. You violated that. I've brought in witnesses, I've brought in police, which is your superior authority, and you can see it didn't just happen off the cuff. I've been attempting this for several years while it's been replicated. So now we've got this long chain of correspondence with not just one elder. You can see that this thing isn't just a misunderstanding. This is a systemic problem that is spanning since at least 2019. At least 2019, I'm going to say, no, when you guys appointed me as a representative of Watchtower, this is going back 25 years that I know about.
Yes.
So you've got a systemic problem, and the systemic problem is that you're creating these feedback loops. And what did you say, Linda James? You said, in your humble opinion, you believe it's by design. In my humble opinion, right or wrong, I also believe that. And if you send this to any kind of criminologist or any kind of decent psychologist that isn't invested in that same organization, they're going to come to the same conclusion. Right. What do you want to say? I'm not a betting person. I'd lay an even bet that that's the conclusion that you'd come to, that this was all institutional evasion. That's all this ever was. And as terrible as this case is, in another way, we're going, great that it's come to light finally.
Right. But isn't it amazing how successful this organization has been? I dare say that it kept it under wraps for so long. Now, there's this reason and that reason and all kinds of reasons. And then there's the one, you don't take your brother to court. If all else fails, you do not take your brother to court.
That's right. I'm just looking at the timeline, 2013. I know that I went to the chairman of this branch and I said, by the way, you're going to get litigation like this. He took me as me threatening the branch. I said, no, I'm just giving you a report. I'm just doing my job. I said, if we do not lock this particular pattern down, this is going to happen. That coordinator is still alive. He's still alive. But I remember that was 2013, which is when this incident happened. So as I'm chirping there and he's hitting the panic button in his office, this was happening in real time.
Yes. Yes.
That's why I couldn't talk the other day. That's why I believe this thing hit.
This triggered some of the stuff you're going through, which you have brought to the authorities of those that are worldly, which is considered within a system that Satan is ruling over, right? So, of course, you need to be considered the enemy, and as if you are attacking Jehovah's organization, Jehovah's channel, Jehovah's mouthpiece, okay? But the fact is, you're actually trying to save their ass, okay? I've heard the way you've spoken of it. You're thinking to yourself ahead of time going, if this does not get reported, you're actually trying to save their ass, okay?
Yeah, but I was even pleading with them.
Yeah.
You got it 100%. I mean, I'll talk with you, Linda James. You are so far ahead. But I'm sitting there and I'm thinking I'm safe with these people. And I said, you know what I actually believe? I believe that Satan, the devil, is wearing a jacket and tie and sitting at morning worship on this very table.
Hmm.
I would say that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thinking
And
that, oh, yeah, we're going to.
that kind of talk happens a lot amongst the organization with even the slightest of fear. Somebody will be accused of being demonized. Somebody will be accused of being used by the devil. I'm not saying you didn't have a basis, because I believe you do, but it's reminding me of that's also a way of controlling behavior, a way of behavior control. If someone sees somebody behaving in a manner that they're getting too much freedom, they're thinking too much too independently, they'll say, that's apostate-like behavior, or that's
Yeah.
demon-like behavior, just to cut them short, to make them, sit upright and go, uh-oh, So it's a form of behavior control. But I don't think that's what you were saying. You were just saying,
No.
listen, it has seeped into sitting next to us. Yeah.
Well, I had persons. I remember when I got transferred. I got transferred because of some territory boundary thing. But the real issue was that I had detected and shown that there was variances in the records. I said, by the way, my transcripts are not tallying. And by the way, I've already submitted the transcripts to authorities in the organization, and they've accepted them. And we can already see a variance with what's happening on the meetings and the transcripts. I said, it looks like a suppression of information. You've decided to become clinical, and you've cut and pasted what you wanted, and you cherry picked, and you've discarded the rest. And I said, you can't operate this way, because we're not fixing the situation. You've been caught now tampering with the evidence and tampering with the information, because you don't want this coming back to you. So this is not the way this is supposed to work. In which world or in which religious institution is this working? Well, obviously it's happening within this religion, and it's got into key areas of oversight, but now it's exposed. So the only thing you can do is you can try and withdraw, or you can send me off to Timbuktu or to the desert or the Namibia desert somewhere, and that's what you hope I'm just going to shrivel up and die there. That's your reassignment story, is
Right.
compartmentalizing and marginalizing in this method. And I'm saying, no, you can't buy me. You can't even dangle the carrot of, oh, don't you want to be on the governing body? They tried that one too. And I said, are you out of your mind?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they linked me into the network, in the network. Oh, Matt, and it's all, Matt, you are the master. I'm getting senior members in the organization groveling, calling me master. It was sickening. It was incredible. And you're going, Matt, no, this is fiction. You've created your own fiction. I go, well, then you're going to have to come and take a look at the emails. You're going to have to I'm not going to sit here and fight it. I'm going to say, well, take a look at the correspondence. You come to your own judgment what's actually occurring here. You want to talk about Freemasonry stuff? We were ticking all the boxes. And by the way, I don't actually, in my humble opinion, I don't actually think that it is a deliberate conspiracy. I believe it's humans being humans that manifest the John D. Watchtower rituals. I actually believe by default that's why all these little demonic pictures come out. It's just our dark nature. When it's unbridled, it manifests. If you want to call it the big string puller, or Satan the devil ruling the world, or archons, or whatever you want to call it, fine. But I look at it and I just go, no, this is what happens when it's unbridled, and you're not answering to anybody. This is what happens. I'm hoping that sounds like it's grounded in reality.
The fact that you were just saying that someone from this organization is talking to you as if what you're stating is science fiction, meaning it's from an alternative world, an alternative universe, which is telling you that you are not in a position of reality, is gaslighting you. And then you're trying to prove, look, come look at this stuff. You know, I'm talking about real facts here. You're still being discounted, but the fact of the matter is they know you're brilliant off the charts, and they can't afford to not keep an eye on you. Okay? Because wherever you go, I'm assuming you would be looked at as dangerous. You know too much, and you would be dangerous.
My instructor handler, I call him my handler. My instructor handler, Gilead instructor handler, said to me, Matt, you showed yourself too proficient. You're a problem. By the way, I see you on the governing body soon.
Okay.
But the way he was talking, it was like your society property. You're going to be on the governing body whether you want to or not. Like we're going to force you onto this thing, and you are going to like it.
That's fascinating.
That's how it came across.
I wonder if other people that are in the governing body today, if they were approached in that manner as well. That's fascinating. I've never thought about it being presented that way.
That's why I think a lot of them are trapped. I'm not conclusive. Let's get it clear to the audience. I'm not conclusive on any of these things. This is just how I feel based on the patterns of what's occurred over and over and over again. And especially now, consulting with others, we're scoring matches on the patterns. Linda James, when we're talking, I go, oh, Rick Farron's Sharon, I hear the same thing going on there. I hear persons coming with the same examples. We've never met before in our lives, but we.
Right.
How about Brother Messe in France? He calls me up. He says, "Oh, this happened. I said, "Oh, by the way, I didn't do it exactly the same way as you, but the pattern matches. So all over the place, it looks like we've reached this tipping point threshold where the whole planet it's just rotten, and that's why I think they're sending me these documents. They're going, oh, by the way, let's see if we can actually bust through. And the only way we can bust through is if there's a third party, because I'm going to say this by their own words, 98%, according to the doctrine, 98% are admittedly compromised. That happened during the worldwide disease.
I see.
The big disease that happened.
Right.
Where people had to take a certain medicine in order to go to a pioneer school or to an elder school. They were required to take a certain medicine. So what happened? Well, you get on JW.org TV. Oh, 98% of the branch is compromised. That was an admission. And then, of course, now on the annual meeting, oh, well, we're not perfect, and sometimes we get it wrong in trying to get it right. No, you knew what you were doing, because we've got phone records and we've got transcripts of those phone records before the incident.
Yes. And
now your overseers who are there are pooping themselves.
And it's been confirmed that this organization has invested in Pfizer.
Yes. Okay. Because we were talking about, well, when you have somebody like, as an example, Jared Kushner buying property, then they see, oh, hang on a second, this isn't just a normal property deal. This is sort of like, well, you guys have got MEPS. When you needed Windows operating systems, we did a handshake and said, well, if you give us your photo typesetting work, we will give you this at a reduced rate, or we will do this deal. Well, there was a similar thing happening on the East River with the property sales. It wasn't just a briefcase with cash. Nobody operates that way. Nobody does a deal that way. It doesn't occur in that kind of fictional world. An episode of Knight Rider with millions of dollars in a briefcase. It doesn't occur that way. It occurred.
Or with MacGyver, who can take a tampon and some hand lotion and save the world. And a rubber band.
I've now made a Learjet. Yeah. A helicopter.
Right?
Yeah.
Similar to that.
Yeah, it doesn't occur that way, but they look at us as a particular psychology that's better than 9 million subscribers on YouTube. I think we have discussed where you're going to get a percentage that's going to be able to work for free, building kingdom halls, and they say, right, well, that will sweeten the deal. You're going to have so many cell phone sales or tablets, you know, so that's benefiting the lithium suppliers, or it's benefiting, you know, your electronic sector or whatever, that they've all got hands in order to successfully flip properties. It's a huge, complex, sophisticated machine. And once you get into that, you do become untouchable. You do.
Okay. Speaking of flipping properties, what I've noticed when I found myself looking at documents is that this brother or that brother would be the owner, and then the property would be flipped. And I don't know for sure, but it sounds to me like there's a group of men who volunteer or are available to volunteer to own the property temporarily that helps them do this flipping.
Sure.
It's not the higher up echelons, but they're up there. They're not this high. You know?
Look, there's all sorts of levels. There's those that supply soap to the various branches. I mean, that's in a huge quantity. Yes. As soon as you in on that, well, that's a privilege. Eh? That's the blessing of Jehovah right there. Right. Or if you're shoving in TVs in every kingdom hall, that's another. Right. It's another, and you can be coming in and win the tender, and you're just below threshold, but it's still a huge chunk of change when it's so many thousand kingdom halls that now has to be upgraded to the standard. It's a huge thing. So it's happening on so many levels. It could be happening on parking tickets at an assembly, or hotel deals, or travel arrangements that's going through the organ. There are so many levels. Or the brother that's on the deathbed at the person in the hospital who's just refused blood and said, just make sure all those matters are handled. And the other two elders have arrived, and they don't know what the third incentivized elder has just spoken about. But now we do. It's about getting the wills. That's what it's about. Yes. Yeah. And they did this even down to Granny's old library. As soon as Granny dies, or Uncle Joe dies, or whoever, they've assigned two persons to go and contact the family and say, don't you want to donate Auntie Sophie's library to the Bethel? Right. For the museum? Just like when Big Mac was on Tom, and Tom said, and this was about a week or two ago, who said that the elders came by to help them write an obituary. I'm like, write an obituary? I've never heard of anybody going to the person who's getting ready to die to write the obituary. Maybe I'm way off. And all I could think about was the elders were showing up to speak to this person on their deathbed, to volunteer and donate. That's where my head went. So it took everything I had to say, this might be happening. This could be happening. And it was actually very, it was hard for me to say that, to be accusing of that. But then I was thankful to hear that he had thought of that too. It's like, oh my God, the things I've learned. And each time people learn another level of deception, I know for me, I become heartbroken, I mourn, and sometimes I'm down for 3 days, like just devastated. And I think to myself, why am I devastated each time I come to this realization of another thing? Excuse me, but this is not uncommon. And when I think about people that are higher up on the echelons, and you've talked about maybe they're trapped,
maybe the governing body are trapped. I picture people going higher up on the echelons. When they get there, it's a benefit, but then they find out information that could compromise them if they reveal it. So they keep it to themselves. So as they're becoming higher and higher and higher, they get more and more information that it piles up. And then there's the guilt and the sense of obligation, and we cannot turn our back on what this organization represents, and all this stuff that boggles the mind. So basically, unless you're involved in something that also benefits yourself as well, see, you keep talking about different things. I do this and I expect that of you. You do this and I expect this of you. But when we become baptized, which I've mentioned before, I didn't get baptized, not for the lack of trying. I tried twice. But when people get baptized, from what I understand, is it's a verbal contract. When they answer yes to 2 questions that is announced at the assemblies just before baptism, they verbally say yes. And that's a verbal yes to a contract.
Sure.
So,
but you also sign it because they tell you report to the baptism desk.
is there a place to sign it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you go there and it's witnessed, because you're supposed to have maybe the coordinator or maybe 2 of the service committee that accompany you, or you have an elder, or you go there to the desk. You're supposed to be signed in. So that's also witnessed. So the person who's at the desk witnesses, or if they just send one elder with you to accompany, they've witnessed and you've signed on. Isn't it incredible? So they've done it not just verbally. Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. Thank you for saying that. Now, a child, and I think even you mentioned it, or I heard somebody else talk about it. Children cannot be held accountable to a contract. So those that get baptized under age, meaning under 18 or 21, whatever is the age of consent, and then later on they change their mind and want to leave, I believe it's robbery to be held accountable to a commitment you made at 9 years old, at 12 years old, at 14 years old. I believe it's illegal to hold someone accountable to a commitment they made at that age, or a vow that they made. Do they get those that are that young to sign something as well? Matthew, do you know?
Well, I'm just thinking about our 12-year-old that we started our discussions with. Linda James, I have a little anxiety. I got the anxiety. I'm not able to keep up with the comments as much as possible, but I see that there's been a flow of all sorts of really great thoughts from Happy Thoughts, and Mama Bear. Sue has come up with some great stuff, and Jay Mars. So
as long as you're comfortable here, you're welcome to be here. You can step back anytime. You can leave anytime.
No, well, I appreciate that, but I just want to make sure that everybody's feeling included.
Oh yeah, okay, thank you. I know we get in our conversation, so let's do this. I'm gonna check out some comments, and Tellteller Media is here. Woohoo! That's Jonathan. Okay, I'm driving from work. Wally's hilarious. Yes, he is. His cat joins in too. I know. Wally has a cat that just climbs right on his desk near his computer and everything. John says the organization put out a new anti-Christmas video. Wally just reviewed it, which I have not seen. So Wally's latest video reviews an anti-Christmas video. Okay. And then Happy Thoughts says gross being the operative word. And Happy Thoughts also said unholy spirit. And she I'm assuming this is a she, also said, the powers of darkness are extremely strong, very hard to fight. And Matthew, you said yes, Sheila. John says, I remember that when in the organization, the more magazines, the more Bible studies you made counted as works for being saved. Yes. Yes. And then Gross says, hello all. Happy Thought says, it's profoundly disturbing to ones who recognize what's going on, but their hands are tied, so they are silenced. This is so true. And John also says, there was a former elder on screens tonight telling his story on Constance and Rick's show. So I believe Joe filled in for them. And that's about the time I tuned in, when Joe was sharing some things he had gone through.
Well, you got it completely right. The gang protected the crime boss. And then Happy Thoughts says that's nearly always the case. But I see Happy Thoughts as talking about how the subject is disturbing. Sure, yeah, it is, absolutely. But we also hope that by making these awful discussions apparent, or spreading the word, the hope is that it's not just doom and gloom. The hope is that it's protecting persons by them seeing how these gangs operate, as Jay Mars correctly says. Because now when you see it, you raise the flag or you get the hell out of there.
Revealing the techniques and tactics. Yes, I totally agree with you. John says, I wonder how a governing body person is chosen. They never lay hands on the person or use holy oil to ordain a person. Well, at the Australian Royal Commission, Geoffrey Jackson said that they're voted in. Literally said they are voted in.
Happy Thought says it was with whiskey. That was the spirit.
There we go. Oh my goodness. It's weird that son-in-law of Trump buys JW property. Conspiracy people, where are you? It's all weird. It's bound to be. Their God is a God of chaos. See, what's interesting is she used lowercase God, meaning not the God of the Bible. And it's, if you recall, who is the God of chaos? That's referred to as the devil. The devil is the God of chaos. Mama Bear says, Linda, that is what happened with Woodland Hills Assembly Hall. They used local brother real estate brokers. Okay. When I was saying flipping, I think that they just have like this group of brothers that are willing to do the signing for the flipping of ownership and stuff. Okay. Yeah, they seem to be involved in real estate scams. Yes. The Moonies seem, Happy Thought says, the Moonies seem to have become more to the forefront since the high-flying money man arrived. Not sure who that would be.
Wow.
I agree, Linda. Children should not take vows. Yes.
I'm very grateful to the understanding audience, Linda James. The community is just great. What can I say?
I think so too. I think so too. Greetings from Germany. Hello, 68. Eek Mouse 68. Good to see you.
Yeah, I wonder who that is from Germany. Because Happy Thoughts. Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, look, I was getting concerned because I know that it's bleak, but yeah, you also light years ahead and you understand this very, very well. The Happy Thoughts are saying, I wasn't being negative, saying the subject was deeply disturbing. It's a subject that affects many people but needs to be addressed. Sheila, I'm
Yes.
sensitive because I don't want to try and stop conversations. I have a lot of things that have happened. My life has been so full of stuff. It is so full. It is so unusual. And I nearly died with all of this information. And sometimes when I get the opportunity, it floods out. But then at the same vein, it's difficult for people to listen to. Linda James is one of those persons who's ahead because you've been doing it for so long. Yeah.
I needed to know, I needed to connect the dots. And what's interesting is, and I had to find this out from a friend of mine. We find things out in different ways. When I was 16, I was put on public reproof, but the elders never talked to me. My mother asked me some questions, but the elders never talked to me. Why? Because I wasn't baptized. I come to find out. A friend of mine said, "This is what happened. The elders asked your mother to ask you some questions. She got the answers and gave them to the elders." I had no clue that that happened. I actually thought I was talking to my mother and answering to my mother. I didn't know she was asking for the elders. Then when I, as well, when I saw a certain psychologist, which a dear friend of mine let me know about this psychologist that I saw. I didn't know the psychologist was a Jehovah's Witness either. I thought to myself, "Oh, finally, someone to talk to." Then I talked to him, and he's like, "Well, I'm an elder and got to turn you into headquarters." I'm like, "That's a dirty trick." I was not informed he was an elder. So I was 16 at the time. I did not know that that was a routine that would happen for somebody not baptized. I actually got to find this out within the last 10 years. And then I had always fantasized about approaching the therapist I went to just tell him what you did was wrong. You did me wrong. Basically, it was unethical. And when a new friend of mine revealed to me a situation of theirs, I just thought to myself, karma has already kicked him in the ass, and I need not approach him. So I was able to just let that go. It's pretty amazing. So basically, the reason I have what I have here is because I need to see the dots connect. I can remember growing up, not understanding why things are happening the way they happened. And the fact is this is a secret society for the most part. Women aren't even allowed to hold the book that's called Shepherd the Flock of God. What? What do you mean they can't hold the book? That's keeping secrets from the women. That's keeping secrets from the children. We don't need that. But let's turn this conversation around to, we are not dead yet, okay?
Sure.
If we've changed our mindset regarding the organization, and sometimes part of us is still faithful to it, part of us still has the doctrines that we hold on to within this organization, and that's just the way it is. You'll shed them when necessary, if necessary. Just be okay with that. But you'll also be able to look back and realize, like I have, okay, this is how I behaved when my kids were little, because the way I was raised to think a certain way, and that's how I was treating them. Even though I had been out of the org for 20 years at that point, I still had a bit of Watchtower doctrine of what I believed was a godly mother or a godly wife. Today, I'm just going to go off path for a minute, because remember the video, I believe it was from 2018, where they spoke of, they showed these videos at the symposium about the wife of Lot. And then they had this beautiful couple, this beautiful Asian couple, and they are a couple in real life. And she was given such a hard time for wanting to be a real estate agent. And her husband was like, "Listen, we make enough. We make enough." And also what was going on is he was reprimanding her in front of the kids in the parking lot of the Kingdom Hall. Like, wait a minute. Like, that shouldn't be happening either. So she was made out to be like of the frickin' devil because she wanted to have a real estate license and be part of bringing
Yes.
money into the family. Then they got an apartment that was like a little bit higher class, and somebody came over that was um, an elder, and they kind of spoke badly about it and all this stuff. Let me just say this right here. The Proverbs 31 woman, which has never existed, but is an example of what a godly wife would be. So, picture it like this. Picture somebody saying, okay, if I'm going to have a wife, I would like them to be like this, 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 and this. That's what Proverbs 31 is. They're saying what a godly wife would be. They're not saying that she existed at all. But this is. So let's talk about her. Her kids rise and praise her. She has her own business and has people that work under her. Okay? She sees some property and buys it. Her husband's at the gates of the city, which implies he might even be involved in politics or maybe law. Okay? And her being who she is makes him look good. Okay? So this behavior that a Proverbs 31 wife has, that's so opposite of that video that we saw, is making her husband look good at the gates. She had like the finest material. She had her own business, okay? The things she did made her quite the independent woman, and yet that never took away anything from her husband at all. He was proud of her, okay? That's the Proverbs 31 woman. I've always called myself the Proverbs 32 woman because I get up late and have my kids serve me coffee. But
Yeah. You should
my
meet my mom, and
yeah,
you should meet my well, if you'd met my mom's grandmother. Wow.
yeah,
I mean, she was multilingual, speaking Hebrew and speaking to the pogroms, and yeah, I mean, this was an exceptional, and yes, fitted that category. I mean, self-sufficient, and the men around her with, just couldn't match that mind. And same for my mom. My mom's mind is exceptional. Her intuitive powers, her powers of business, and yeah, that's Linda James. You'd be with her for a few moments, you'd know
I'd have a
very
blast with her.
quickly. Yeah,
That sounds
you'd know
amazing.
very quickly. So
When you
yeah, look, we have exceptional women without a doubt. I know that. Blessed to
and
have had that
being
as
an
leadership.
exceptional woman should never take away just in other words, we can be. It would not take away the masculinity of the men in our lives. It wouldn't. It would benefit them and make us, this quote unquote be a helper. It makes you both look good, okay? That's my opinion. Is it godly? Is it biblical? I don't know. It's just my opinion. But when there's that statement of being submissive one to another, it implies that not only is the woman submissive to the man, but the man is submissive to the woman. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're lowly and that you have to take orders from the man, but rather support your partner in what they say they are about and do things that is in support of that. So we can also expect that we women from our partner in supporting what we say we're about, whatever that might be. Within the organization, the female, the bride, there is not much of the husband supporting the women of what they say about that they are about. Yes, it does show up, but mainly our whole existence was created to support the men in everything that they say they're about. And we women, within this last century of the 1900s, 1920, we got the opportunity to vote because of suffrage here in the United States. And even suffrage took 100 years to happen for us to get a chance to vote. Okay. So whether you do choose to vote or not is up to you. But, and then there's the argument that maybe our vote doesn't even count. And that might be the case. But to me, the women that came ahead of me, especially in the early 20s, 1920s, and 30s, when they had no rights and they were standing up, they got thrown in jail. They got kicked out of their homes, and their kids were taken, were left there with the husbands as they're thrown out on the streets because they had no rights. This was also the time that Russell and Mariah, his wife, around the turn of the century, between the 1800s and the 1900s, when he had gotten sick, Russell had gotten sick, so she kind of went across around the territory and spoke up for him. She filled in for him when he was sick. And when she came back to the house, he thought she was too hot, like she thought too much of herself. And he was not having that. So, he had to knock her down a few notches verbally or however he did it. But it ended up not doing well for their marriage. And she was like a major support. Like, she wrote out all kinds of stuff. She was the backbone of this organization. So when it came time for her, when she chose to separate from Russell, I tend to think, this is my opinion, that it was also part of helping to get Rose Ball, their adopted child, not by legally, but just by love. They adopted Rose Ball. She was kind of an orphan. And Russell got very, very comfortable with her and called her his little wife and this kind of stuff. I think part of the reason of separating from him was to also help to get Rose Ball away from Russell. That's just my intuition saying that. I don't know that for sure. The fact that
she ended up in Australia, right? Oh, sorry,
yes, she did. Thank you. She got assigned to Australia, got married to a gentleman over there, or before that, and went over there. Yes. So she ended up getting away from Charles Taze Russell, and that was a good thing. When you look at the story, it kind of seems like she might have enjoyed some of the scandalous stuff that was going on with Russell. And then at other times, it seems like she was saying, no, I don't want to be doing this. But what I also noticed is that she admitted it to Russell's wife, Marie. Like, she had this sense of obligation to tell her. So anyways, I just spun. So anyways, we women.
Do you see how much information we have? Linda James, you've got a massive library there. Massive library. And that's all significant.
Do you know why? I've asked a lot of people this, maybe somebody in our chat or somebody in the future who listens to this. Do you know why Charles Taze Russell and his wife, Mariah or Marie, chose to be a celibate couple?
Oh, I keep getting asked this, and yes, I have read it, and I'm going to have to search through data banks to get this.
All I can assume is that at the time, it was culturally thought of as something you only do to produce children rather than a good time on a Friday night, right? So that's my assumption. I don't know for sure. I'm just thinking culturally that might be the case, which...
That might be the case, but I think there was something deeper like that, almost like he had no sex drive, or there was something else as well. But I just... I can't think of it, and anything becomes speculative. So I'm avoiding.
Yeah.
But there is something more there.
Yeah,
and of course his policy.
Interesting.
Yeah, and his policy. But then, what the heck is Ball doing on his bed? And she's the little wife, and
I know.
Yeah.
He seemed to have gotten his mojo back because he became a jellyfish, right? he was, you know, he
Yes,
would
with
lean
his
into.
stingers, and I mean, there's even in these intimate things. Uh, what is it? Your love interest is "sting me, honey." You know, I mean, there's all of
Yes,
this, right? You go,
yes.
sure.
Oh my
I
God,
mean, it even
I need to apologize to you. I think it was a week ago or something. You were talking about watching certain kind of corn, and you were
corn.
saying if I watched it, or if I something to the effect that if you claim that you didn't, I straight up said to you that I would say you're a liar, and that wasn't nice of me to assume that, and I apologize.
Well, thank you for that, Linda James. But we're all free here, and it's all good. I think about some of the biggest popcorn I've ever come across is in elders meetings discussion. I mean, even the F word is flying
Yeah,
around.
right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely, it's flying around. Well, in Africa, it's in the jargon. So I mean, you know.
Sure, sure.
But this was even coming out of the mouth of some of the Gilead instructors was the F word, and you're going, what? So yeah, so the public image and what's going on behind closed doors and the screaming matches, and this is all happening. People, it's so bizarre that as I'm actually saying it, I know it sounds wacko. I know it just sounds like Matt, you're making this stuff up.
Well,
But
to me, my view of why I said that had nothing to do with you. It had to do with my general view of how men are, and I assumed
yeah,
that to be um, the case when we were talking before, and that's why I said if you claim that you haven't, you'd be a liar. So that was not fair to you.
there was a time. There was a time. Well, I've seen all sorts of stuff, and I've lived in because I was getting the circuit overseer training. I've lived in. Okay, I've been in such danger. I've had to sleep in different beds at night, and I've been looked after by Islamic community, Hindu community, you name it. Almost like anything but JW.
And have you found that you've been really taken care of and really looked over
I was
well?
actually taken care of by anybody who was.
Yes, I've I've heard many
But
testimonies to this.
yeah,
Yes.
but I've lived by fire, out in the open, and in the bush, and I
Yeah.
mean, plus all sorts of survival training. The branch committee saying, "Oh, well, you've been trained for this; you'll survive," and hang up on, you know.
You've been training for
Yeah.
this, you'll survive.
So getting water from and locating water from springs and starting from scratch, like
Wow.
nothing there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a full life. And what does it do? It removes fear. So is it all a negative? No, there's positive. What's it? My partner going and killing a guinea fowl. He says, right, that's what we're going to eat. You know, and it's
Hmm.
black meat. You know, this is the
Yeah.
survival thing. Have I eaten? I don't mean to be disgusting. I've eaten mice and rats, and I'm
Hmm.
looking around going, how did my mind get to that state? You know, that I'm eating like this.
Survival. Survival.
It was
Yes.
survival, yeah, because it was this very unusual circumstances, and this is what we were trained for. And yeah, I'm going. It's for God and Christ, and I'm bathing in freezing water, and it's so cold, it's knocking the wind out of my lungs, and I'm getting into a mantra for God and Christ, for God and Christ, for God and Christ, and I'm getting
Wow.
into yeah all of this to get through.
In the
But
future, I would love to know more about your partner that has passed, if you're comfortable with
okay,
that. If not,
tuck heads and it's out.
well,
Yeah,
we
incredible.
we don't have to. But I'm going to let you bring it up when you're in the
Yeah,
mood
so
to,
we can
if
mention
you're
his
ever
name,
ready.
Takaedza Nyadzao. How about that? So if you want to
Okay.
put a pin in that one, put a pin in it, but that's his name,
We're at the.
Takaedza Nyadzao. Takaedza means we tried, if you
Oh
translate it.
wow. Okay, we're at the
And he
159
was,
point. Mm-hmm.
yeah, when I met him, he had already been in special service for 10 years. He was selected for special judicial cases. He was a troubleshooter. He was eyes and ears, essentially part of our secret intelligence for JW. That's what he was. That's
Wow.
exactly what he was.
You
And
must have
a
learned a
lawyer,
lot from him. You must have
yeah,
learned a lot from him.
when I first met him, I could see him from a distance because they said, "Oh, by the way, your next partner, your assigned partner, is Tucker Zanaza." And he arrived on a black Hummer bicycle with a stereotypical African black pot tied to the back of the bicycle with rubber. He had Insight Volumes RBI 8 and selected books on a wire with a suit coming off. I saw from a distance. I saw from it. I said, "This is my partner. I can tell."
Yep.
You know what I mean, how can you miss this?
I love it.
And I called his bicycle the death bike
Oh, wow.
because it had no changing gears. It just had 42 cog like this. It was a terrible bicycle. And yeah, I'll tell you the story of what happened with that bicycle. But I met Isaiah McCory, who was featured in the JV book, the Proclaimers book, which is the JW sanitized history. I met him. I met him. He was the guy who was dodging bullets during the governmental transition from Rhodesia to Zimbabwe. I met him. I met these people in these books. Yeah, it's been an incredible. He was on a Tanganda tea estate, one of these lush, Ceylon tea estates out in. I'm going to describe it as like Tarzan jungle out in Africa. 5 types of weather in one day, in this isolated congregation out in the jungle, basically. Met him there.
Wow.
And yeah,
Wow.
good man. Good man. I met some exceptional people, but we were living in a bubble. We were living in something that was not how this organization really is. And I can say, thank God or thank the higher powers that I actually met these people because they were authentic. They were the people who taught me to operate the way I did.
Very nice.
These were the people, and
Very nice.
the Bible studies that have become circuit overseers or that are deep in the branch now. I've said to them, "Oh, you're now seeing crazy Matt with his stories. Oh, you're seeing a match now? Yes, we fought you, we opposed you, but you're right. Sorry. So, well, I'm still giving advice now. Are you going to take it or not? If you know." So those guys, I say to them, I said, the reason why you're able to benefit from those stories now is that was the old school. That was the golden era. I said, but we discovered this wasn't the real shape of how this was structured. This was standing on the backs of good people. This is the tragedy.
Yes.
I'm yapping.
Today, there is a lot that those that have left the organization or those that want to assimilate into society at large. What I want to say is, yes, it's a bit foreign. And yes, we will make mistakes and stumble and fall and might even get yelled at because we're doing something socially unacceptable. But that's where we're going to gain our wisdom. And when we gain more wisdom and we get up and go again, it's going to become more comfortable for us. We're used to living in that bubble that Matthew's talking about, but there's more out there. And when you find out what you can be comfortable with, you'll realize just how oppressed you were. You might not even notice it now. But the longer I've been out, the more I've realized how isolated I was. Like when Matthew says that bubble, it's like I grew up under a rock, okay? Just didn't know what was going on in life because I was under a rock. And when I spoke of institutional syndrome, it's that same thing someone goes through when they've been in jail or in prison, and then they try to assimilate into society at large. It's not uncommon for them to have panic attacks. It's not uncommon for them to have mental adjustment times, okay? Going and seeing a therapist is one of the best things you can do. because you'll discover there's these things called human rights. There's these things called boundaries. There's these things called really using your conscience, as opposed to what we're told to use our Bible trained conscience, which means AKA use the decisions that have been made by the organization that we're supposed to make. Okay, you actually do get to use your own conscience. We've been told things over and over and over again. These are conscience matter. But what does that really mean? Today, or if you actually do get to use your conscience. Might you be off or wrong? You might, but you also might be right. You might make decisions that are very good for you. But don't feel bad if you've made some bad decisions. That's part of gaining your wisdom. And it's really okay. It's when I hear myself say it's not the end of the world. When we made a bad decision within the organization, it turned out to be you're going to die at the end of the world. You're going to die during Armageddon if you make these mistakes. That is not the case. You actually do get to make good decisions and get positive reinforcement. You can make bad decisions and then get your bad reinforcements. That's how you're going to gain your wisdom. That is going to support you in becoming your own authentic self and your own decision making. Experiences
What
give
are
you
some?
wisdom. Go ahead, Matthew.
Sorry, Linda James. I keep getting caught by latency, and I realize I've interrupted you. I'm sorry about that.
I'm good. I'd do the
Yeah,
same. I'd do the same
every
to
now
you.
and then I lose the sound, and then I sort of chip in. So sorry about that.
Okay. Did you want to ask me something?
Well, I was thinking about, the regrets. What are the regrets? Is it our intimate relationships with people? Is it our desire to have a love interest, or is it our desire to create family? It's all of these things that are hijacked. I think it was Maverick that was talking about his dating or something, and he was, I don't know, it sounds like he was in his mid 30s or 40s or something like that. But the fact is that he was a full-grown adult and showed some interest in a sister or a woman, and now the elders are meeting with him because they've noticed that there is some sort of romantic connection going on. Well, what kind of level of interference is this? It's just massive. And then woe betide you if you've dated for 3 years. That's far too long. It's got to be done in a 6-month window. Who's making up these rules? It's just disastrous. No wonder there's so many of these disasters. So I'm listening to you, Linda James, and I'm basically agreeing with you. I'm going at every step. It's like hamstrung every friggin' step of the way. This is, how did we put up with it? The reason why we put up with it is we thought,
this was all we knew.
And we thought Armageddon was coming in 6 months because it was the final days of the final days, the last hour, last minute, last second.
Of the final days, just around the corner.
Yeah, I can't quote them exactly, and I don't want to, but we all know what it is.
It might not show up in our lifetime. Wait a minute. I thought we weren't going to graduate from high school. I thought you're never going to go to college. I have grandkids.
That video must not disappear. I mean, it's got to be played on every network. Here it is. This is it. Oh, by the way, this is the old light, old truth that was current at the time. But we're going to never let you forget it. You should never forget it. Because this molded people's lives. It shaped their insurance policies, their retirement plans, their life decisions.
Listen,
based on what?
You and I can go through life and gain some wisdom or make some different choices and have a different belief as we're going along in life. But a group that claims to speak for God, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and is always changing, and they call it clarifications, it's out of character of the God of the Bible. So why would they do that? I believe it's to keep us off balance. I believe it's to confuse us And when someone is confused and off balance, things can be directed to them. Suggestions can be directed to them in such a way that they'll receive it in that place of kind of panic. Or wait a minute, what's going on here? I read a book where Trump said that when he shakes hands, he literally pulls on him, on whoever he's shaking hands to throw them off balance. It's a power trip he does to throw them off balance. And when I watched Trump come into Los Angeles about 4 or 5 months ago, when we had some fires going on here, I watched Trump shake hands with our governor Newsom. And he was shaking his hand and he was pulling it back and forth like this. And Newsom was just very limber. His body wasn't dragged forward. And I thought that was so interesting that Trump isn't able to throw him off balance. He just flowed with it when Trump was pulling his hand as he shook his hand. I found that so fascinating. But if you're the kind of person that, hold your hand, your arm still when you're shaking hands with someone, that would give you that sensation of throwing you off. I don't know if you can relate to this, but if you're sitting in a car and the car next to you all of a sudden starts backing up, sometimes it gives you the impression your car is moving when it's not, but theirs is moving. And it kind of does that to you. But still, don't be afraid to make mistakes as we're going through life now. Fortunately, we can learn from them, and some mistakes we have to make a whole bunch of times. And don't even be ashamed of that, because sometimes it takes a while to kick in. And like Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. And when we know better, we'll do better.
Yeah. What was our theme, Linda James?
What was what?
What was our theme? Well, we were talking about this awful case, wasn't it? That's how we started things off.
Yes. But what I really want today to be more so about is that it's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel off balance when we're trying to function in society at large. That's normal. If we find ourselves having panic attacks and stuff, that's actually a normal reaction, so much so that people that leave prison go through that too. That's the institutional syndrome that I'm talking about. And that to go to therapy is a very wise thing, even if your therapist is not familiar with what it's like to be in a high control, high demand group. We've got a lot of people on YouTube that are deconstructing from groups like these that we've been in. We can view their channels, see what they say. Again, like when you watch this channel, take what you like and leave the rest. Whatever rings true to you does. Whatever doesn't, let it fly back behind you, So we can learn from others, and we can learn from people that have made mistakes and people that make suggestions that we may have never thought of. Okay. It just never, our mindset has been so limited. The thing I've also mentioned before is Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is something the organization goes to court all the time using, freedom of religion. And if you look that up, which is through the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, within that freedom of religion, it literally says that you have the freedom to change your religion or your belief system. Within this organization, if we changed our belief system, that was really bad. And that actually goes against our human rights. So you have just as much of a right to use this human right of freedom of religion as the organization does. Human rights.
Well, we have proven that with this organization, you don't even have the right to be an authentic JW, because as soon as you do, it threatens the system because it exposes the corruption that's there. It holds up a candle and it's enough to throw light on exactly what's happening behind the scenes,
Right.
and it's abysmal. And as soon as that occurs, then it's your liability. It isn't just that somebody picked up a cigarette or drank a little bit too much, or there was some infidelity, or some kind of coital thing that went on that was off limits. No, 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 no. The worst ones, because that's all happening in the congregation anyway. That's all happening.
Right.
Yeah, as long as you confess to your pals about it, and then they say, "Oh yeah, well, you're one of us. Step into the club." But what's it? The reality of the situation, as soon as you become a liability and you expose what's going on, you expose that's what is very different to the public image. Well, now that's a problem.
Right.
And the ejection system is sophisticated.
Yes.
But it doesn't. I think we've come to that saturation point. I think these discussions are showing it's reached this threshold. How many million have been booted out of the system or left?
Well,
it's
when it
too
happens
much.
before we're mentally ready or physically ready, it really harms us mentally. I mean, it really harms us before we're ready. And it's the shunning practice of is not Jehovah God's loving provision. It's intended to make sure that you are treated as though you are dead, as if you do not deserve to be alive. And that's the eighth criteria of totalism by Robert J. Lipton, who actually died earlier this year at the age of 99. Robert J. Lipton studied prisoners of war and learned the techniques and tactics that were used on them. And that was one of them.
Did you say Robert Lipton?
Robert J. Lipton? Yes. So he had something called 8 criteria to totalism, I believe.
I just want to check my file here because that's ringing a bell. Let me go to my work here. Robert J.
Yeah, J-A-Y.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Very interesting. Yes. So you said
Well,
he had the.
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
We were talking Robert J. Lipton, eh? And he rang a bell.
Yes, 8 criteria to totalism. And that would be the 8th one. I believe it's called dispensation of existence or something of existence, as though you don't even deserve to exist. That's what shunning does to people. And even if you're in jail or prison and you're thrown in the hole, it's very common for people to hallucinate. I mean, it's not good for the psyche. There's even games that'll be played, like throwing a ball back and forth on the internet. And if 3 people are throwing the ball back and forth, that's cool. But if only 2 of them start to throw the ball back and forth and leave the third one out, this third one actually feels the effects of being left out, and it affects them emotionally, psychologically. And it's just a game on the internet, okay? It does affect us. It's referred to as discipline from the organization, but it's actually intended to be a punishment. And it's one of those things that you might have a husband or wife that might give you the cold shoulder and not speak to you for days. They are punishing you. That is punishment. I'm going to look here at some of the comments. And John says, Maverick's case seemed like the elders wanted to destroy a relationship. Isn't that the truth? Which is so the characteristic of a narcissist. They're like, oh my God, you have your attention on something else? I'm going to sabotage it so that you can keep looking at me and I can keep getting your attention. That's the narcissistic viewpoint. And John also says, I think the new light, they will get rid of 1914 and reuse 1975 as the new start of the time of the end. And he's laughing, which is exactly what they did with 1894 and 1914. That's exactly what they did. They replaced it, just like what you're talking about. And you can find out that that happened within the book called Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz. And John says, don't forget the thumbs up. It helps the show. Thank you. You guys are so rockin' awesome. And you know what? You guys are positive amongst yourselves too. I love that. Love, love, love that. Pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and start all over again. Yes, we can do that. And maybe we got a little bit of dirt on something. Let's just change our shirt. And this is another thing. We can start the day all over any time of the day, okay? We can start it over any time of the day. Rutherford was sort of like with two mistresses at Beth Sarim. That's correct, yes. And there are weird things, C.T. Russell, unless he was hanging out with salon girls at night in disguise. And Mom Bear said that she, meaning Maria Russell or Mariah Russell, wrote most of the literature, yes. And John says men need to support women too. And then he's got a little strong arm. That's so cool, I think. I love that. That's a balance between one another. That's what Mama Bear says. And Happy Thoughts says, absolutely, Linda. And I don't know what that was to, but thank you. Proverbs 31 woman rocked. That's right. That was from Mama Bear. And John says a JW as a psychologist, LOL. How the heck is that? They have him, honey. They got him. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I think a lot of times they're a therapist before they join, but I don't really know that for sure. And Happy Thoughts. Okay. You weren't being negative. Yeah. Yeah. So, Mama Bear says, I remember Linda hugs. Yep. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that a lot. And, you know, it's really good to hear all this support for women and stuff. And I've even just complimented Matthew to no end. Like, he's treated me better than any other elder I've ever met. But my brother-in-law, which is married to my sister, he's pretty good too. But that could be because I threatened him at his wedding. When he married my sister, I said, you ever heard her? I'm going to kick you in the shins. So maybe it's because I threatened him. Nah, I think he's just got a very good attitude towards him, and he just keeps it with him and hasn't changed much. Yes, Linda, you're talking about the capable wife. Proverbs 2 wife. Yes. Happy Thought says, the sad thing is the ordinary JW just accept whatever the governing body says as though it makes sense. Yeah, that's the thing. As though it makes sense. There's an assumption that it would make sense. We just have to figure out how it's going to make sense in our brain when we're given this direction.
Purple says, shins, you need to aim higher.
Mm-hmm. So, life after a compartmentalized society that we're in can be scary, but it's worth the adventure. It's worth the discovery. With positive reinforcement as a result of our decisions and negative reinforcement as a result of our decisions. And it's good to come up with decisions on your own. If you are still a Bible believing person, you are, in fact, allowed to read your Bible and let the words of the Bible determine what the Bible actually means. Okay? Within this organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, we have been informed that it is the governing body that interprets Scripture. You get to interpret Scripture. Okay? Know that. You might have a different view of that same Scripture 5 years down the line, but you get to interpret Scripture. You get to let Scripture speak to you regarding a situation you might be going through. Okay? Do not let other people tell you whether or not a Scripture definition is valid that you've made or not. Okay? If you have chosen to not have the Bible in your life, then that's something you've chosen as well. Be at peace with that. You know, you get to make your own decisions. If you're going to be drawn back to it later, then allow that. If not, allow for that too. So in the comments, or if anybody wants to join me, which I do have the link to join us, and you don't have to show your face if you don't want to. But in the comments, can you share something that you have discovered to be a benefit since you've left the organization, or something that you've learned from the organization that still benefits you today, whether you remain in the organization or not? I'm just curious what you might come up with, because I think it would be helpful for us to discover these things. What might have worked for you since you've left that is different from the path you've learned within this organization, or what it has been in the path of what we've learned and we continue to use? I'm just curious what the chat might come up.
I don't see anything in the chat just yet, but I could start things off perhaps, Linda James.
I'd like that. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so benefits, right? We're talking what's the positives. Positives of being booted to the curb or rejected or waking up from this thing with a rude awakening. Not being beholden to corruption through coercion. How about that?
Yes.
I don't have to now answer to a coercive force that's justified as this is Jehovah's direction, or there's some kind of mystery here that we are being used to accomplish this greater, nobler mission, but it's a load of bunk. It's a load of nonsense. And now I don't have to have that continual abuse, don't have to necessarily be sitting with judgment every day, be it at a field service group that because it's accumulative. It's all these kind of little judgments that are going on. It's not a healthy society. It's not a healthy mindset.
It does add up, yes.
Yeah, less headaches. How about that? Less actual headache. Less nosebleeds.
Oh my God, yes. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, have I started us off? Happy Thoughts said something. Some time ago, the org taught me how to study, but eventually to WT detriment. Now I'm free to study higher ideas. Well, that's a benefit. That's great. 68 Eka Mouse says, I learned after 33 years out that the world is far less hostile and more loving than JW. Sure. John Mars, since I left the organization, I was able to read books that were never allowed to read. I was able to work for public schools. Sure. Here's a new one from 68 Eka Mouse. And looking back, it's quite shocking. And what a low social class I grew up. I'm quite pleased that I now have such a blessed life. These are very positive comments coming in.
These are really good. This is really good stuff too. Just like what I've said with this channel, I dare say the same thing with the organization. Take what you like and leave the rest. And if it's still working for you, it's still working for you. This is great. This is really great. Thank you. I think one of the things that the organization that I still have is that it had me looking forward to living in paradise with all these different nationalities, all these different cultures. We're going to come together in paradise. And I looked forward to that. And one of the things the organization bragged a lot about is that we're not racist regarding other cultures. I thought that was very, very unique, and that's how I grew up thinking, which I grew up in Los Angeles, which is a melting pot of all kinds of different nationalities and cultures. So I think that might be why I'm having such a hard time with the United States and ICE, which is immigration, and the times I've mentioned in the past why I've had a hard time with ICE, and the way that they are coming after Hispanic people, but it is more than Hispanic people, but most of it is Hispanic people. So when I see what's happening and how our president is dehumanizing Hispanics by his rhetoric, by saying like Mexico is not sending us their best. They're opening up these prisons and sending all of the prisoners here to the United States. You're opening up the psych wards and sending them all to the United States. That is highly unlikely, and I don't believe it for a minute. But that is what is said, and that is what some people believe, and you might believe it too. Okay, I don't. I think it's fear-mongering and supposed to make us be pitted against each other. And growing up in Los Angeles County, I knew the Hispanic culture better than I knew my own, okay, which is what I've said before, Heinz 57 Honky. I just grew up around it. Like when my oldest daughter became the age of being able to have a friend come over, she would say, "Can so-and-so come over?" Lourdes or whatever their name is. They would come over, but they would also bring 3 other kids that were younger than them. So giving permission for my daughter to bring over Lourdes meant I was giving her permission to bring 3 other siblings as well. Why? Because within that culture, they're watching those that are younger than them as well. That's very much the culture. And a lot of Hispanics within the Los Angeles County are Catholic. So they tend to have a lot of kids because they don't believe in birth control. So, yeah. So these are things I've come to learn, culturally, and is what I'm comfortable with. If we are, Happy Thought says, if we allow ourselves to keep on learning, it opens our mind to extraordinary opportunities. I agree. 68 Eka Mouse says, there's actually one more thing I learned. Not to wait for the miracle, but to be the miracle. Oh my goodness. Woo. And not to wait for paradise, but to create your own paradise on earth right away. Wow. Yeah. We can make our own environment a paradise. Yes, it's not the paradise that the organization has taught us the earth is going to turn into, um, which is supposed to be like back to much like the state of the Garden of Eden, but we can create our own atmosphere. We can make life a paradise for ourselves. And yes, when our kids are still young, things get hectic, but hectic can happen in paradise too. And same problem in the UK, Linda. It's unbelievable what's happening here. That's what Happy Thought says. And Purple, she's saying now Trump is going after Somalia people. Yes, this is true. He probably thinks he will get less pushback because they are even darker than Hispanic people. Um, what I believe is going on here in the United States is an ethnic cleansing, and this is how I believe it's part of how this is going about. I believe that Trump is a small part of this. I believe that when he makes the statement of "Make America Great Again," it's pretty much saying "Make America White Again," and that's just what I'm picking up on and what my gut says. The fact is, the United States has been a place to welcome different cultures and different nationalities, and that is no longer the case. Our allies have been offended, and Trump went to the United Nations and spoke there, and basically told every country that was there when he spoke that they have lousy countries because they're not doing what he's doing. Okay, so he insulted all these other countries, telling them how inadequate they are and how basically telling them they're a bunch of stupid idiots, which is really not what we should be doing. But that's what our president did. I know there are people that are devoted to him, and that to each their own. He panics me. He panics me. Um, his behavior panics me. When ICE was in Los Angeles County and made a big deal. No, they went to a Home Depot in the city of Bellflower, which I know like the back of my hand. They were in 2 city blocks, and what I mean by city blocks is like if you're taking a larger city street rather than the back streets or streets where residents live. I'm talking city blocks where the businesses are. They had marked off about 2 city blocks. That's what they made a big deal about, as if the whole city was being taken over. It was 2 city blocks, and things were being taken care of. But Trump wanted to claim that the city was out of control and that he needed to send in other backup. And he's been doing this with each city after he did that with Los Angeles. And he's stepping over the governors and the mayors of these cities who claim that if they did that, it's going to make things worse. But Trump has continued to do that, and it has continued to make it worse. So I've been in disagreement with this. But yes, Purple is right. She's talking about the Somalians. It will be another culture, another nationality within a month or two. And it will have the same kind of rhetoric that we will hear from our president. What's another thing that they say, the president says, which cracks me up, I mean, I barely get laugh, is he claims that we Democrats, which I consider myself on the left a Democrat, is that we want everybody to be transgender. It's like, we want everybody to be transgender, which is so not the case. the transgender community is about 1%, if not less, than all of society at large of the United States. And if you think of the LGBTQ community, they're 10% of the United States, okay? So transgender are 1%. It's not possible for us to tell everybody to turn transgender. It's just so ridiculous. But that's the kind of rhetoric Trump puts out there to scare people, to have them fear people, especially those that are Democratic. So it's pretty bizarre. Did you want to say something, Matthew?
Oh no, just listening to you and tuning in there, Linda James. So yeah, this Trump information and the patterns that you're seeing there, I think it's just our greater awareness that's being applied to the environment around us. So I think this is part of our transition. These old ways of doing things, this old psychology of governance over people, I think we're seeing through it. But if we're allowed to see through it, maybe it shows that indeed an old system is ending, an old way of doing things. I think we as humans are on this existential crisis, major.
Just like the Organization of Jehovah's Witnesses like to keep us in fear, I'm saying that the government of the United States is trying to keep us all in fear for the same reason, because we're more easily guided and directed if we're in fear, so that we don't talk back or disagree. So yeah.
Is their narrative working? Is the dismantling of the White House to renovate it, is it symbolic? I think so.
That was something that I was just listening to somebody. Okay, Uncultured. So there's a gal that has a YouTube channel called The Knitting Cult Lady, and she has a book called Uncultured. She grew up in the family of God, and she was talking about there was a time when she was invited to the White House, and she's talking about going into the East Wing of the White House. That's the area Trump has torn down. And it was just so fascinating to hear her talk about she and another person was invited there by Obama. And for some, I don't even remember why, but it was fascinating to hear her talk about how things looked there when today, historically, that portion of the White House has been demolished. It was a trip. Daniela is her first name. Knitting Cult Lady. Purple saying, what would be the point of making more people transgender? ? They're running parallel religion politics. Yes, that's right. Most conspiracies come apart when you ask for the motive. Who would profit? Great question. Who would profit from this? Exactly. John says, regarding the ICE deportations, an American citizen woman was hassled, cuffed. She was screaming that she is a U.S. citizen. It's been filmed. You know what? I've been watching. I've been passing it by, seeing the video you're talking about, and my psyche is not ready to watch this. But I've seen it on YouTube, quite a few videos that will show that very case. And I know that my psyche is not up to it, but I do have a playlist, a private playlist, that when I come across videos like that, I have a playlist labeled ICE. Okay. So I am putting it aside for when I am psychologically up to watching it. I can't imagine how terrifying it would be to be grabbed by armed men and thrown to the effing ground. I've heard stories about when people want to show their ID and ICE refuses to see it, or they have shown their ID, it's legitimate ID that confirms that they are US citizens, and ICE will tell them that it's fake and that they don't believe it's authentic. There's nothing holding ICE accountable, and soon there will be even more of them. And this is terrifying to me. But that's what's going on right now. And again, it's about the fear. And it's really, really working. Purple says, there was also the teenage boy who was pulled out of his truck. He was also a U.S. citizen. Pulled him out and pinned him on the ground. Yes. It's... If anybody interrupts ICE grabbing people this way, the person that interrupts will be taken in as well for interrupting. I forget what that's called. But what has been going on, and I'm very proud of American citizens, is that as soon as something happens and people get wind of it, many people show up and many people are videotaping it. So these different situations are being documented. Okay? There will be a day that they will have to answer in court. It might seem unlikely now because they don't have to wear a badge. They cover their faces, so we don't know who they are. But in the same way that they're getting the information regarding citizens of the United States and those that would be possibly undocumented, that information for them will be gotten as well. Because working for ICE, you will have given your name, you will have given your address, and these things will be able to be subpoenaed to show up in court someday. So this is not something that will go unpunished, but at this time it's appearing that way, but it will not go unpunished eventually.
Well, Linda James, you're reminding me of something that happened in some lived experience. The one assignment, one country which I was stationed at, the ruling party was recruiting youth, almost like a German youth league, and they were supplying them with uniforms. Yeah.
Yes.
And something similar to what you're describing there. But what eventually happened, you had counter measures which had the same uniforms going on.
Wow.
Yeah, as soon as you now have a system that's getting out of control, people get sick of it, and then it gets confusing like this, and then it gets rendered useless. Because it just becomes chaotic, because who's who in the zoo, you don't know what's going on. So if these kind of things are getting abusive and out of control, yeah.
Well, Trump was interviewed not long ago and asked if he thought that maybe the ICE agents are going too far, and President Trump said, too far? They're not going far enough. So so it's going to get worse before it gets better, but please know that it's going to get better. It's going to get better.
So he may be defending legitimate ICE agents, but how do we know who's who in the narrative anymore? Can we really trust the information? Yeah. So and then if it is other organizations chipping in and doing something else there, and it's creating a chaotic system, and he's saying, oh no, that's not ICE that's doing this, Yeah, yeah, it's just again, you can see it's a recipe for a mess.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is. I'm going to be closing up shop in about 10 minutes, but this um, country has had some history of white supremacy and KKK, and for a while it did not rear its ugly head, but since 2016 it has, and it's only rearing its ugly head even more. And that, like I said earlier, I believe that the way I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness promoted me to look forward to paradise, to be around all these different cultures. Growing up in Los Angeles was an opportunity to be around all these different cultures. To see what's going on today, I see as an atrocity. And it's not like it hasn't happened before, but it also has been um, tamed, and it will be tamed again. So I'm proud of the American public that are filming this. I've even heard of situations where I don't know what the deal is, but there's whistles involved. I don't know who came up with this, but evidently whistles are involved, and they whistle so much that it bothers ICE, and they either do what they're going to do and finish the job, or they retreat and get in their cars and leave. So, yay, good for you guys with the whistles, because we can't physically get into that and stop it. It does not mean that we're wanting illegal aliens or undocumented people breaking the law and being
Yeah,
criminals. That's not what it means. I believe that we know better than to believe what Trump has been telling us, meaning opened up the prisons and sending all these uh, people that were in prison to us, or the psych wards. Listen, those that are undocumented are usually some of the best citizens out there. Why? Because they don't want to bring too much attention to themselves. And in my experience, the worst thing they do is play their mariachi music a little too loud on the weekends and stand in their yard and drink beer out of a can. Okay. Like that's the most scandalous they get. And then they have quinceañeras. Okay. Quinceañeras, which is a big O celebration. And those are pretty amazing too. They are not, for the most part, criminals. There are some that are, and there are some that break the law and this, that, and the other. And I believe I dare say that is the case with any culture. So that's my opinion on that. And again, enjoy the time that you get to develop your own personality. Did you want to say anything before
Linda
we say
Jane,
goodnight? Yes.
I would like to end off with gratitude for everybody in the community, those that come in with comments, really profound comments. We think of Happy Thoughts, Sheila, Purple, Rhymes with Orange, John, Dallas, the usual crowd here. I don't know if we're missing anybody out. 68 Eka Mouse, we see you too, so thank you very, very much. Who I missed out here, but we've got some really great supporters that come into the channel. It's definitely a healing space. Linda James, you're a great host. You're ahead
Thank
of
you.
the curve. You're able to fill in the gap. So thank you very much, and thanks for welcoming me in to this space. I really have much gratitude and appreciation for all of that. Thank you very, very much. It certainly helps a tremendous amount. And so I'm looking forward to your parting words of wisdom.
Okay. Okay. Can you stick around because I need to say a few things to you after this show
Okay.
ends? Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Um, you usually exit. you leave the room. So I thought I better tell you this. So
Oh, yeah.
yes, I want to
Okay.
thank everybody in the chat as well. All of you that showed up and gave your comments. I want to thank anybody that listens to this later. And thank you for showing up. Thank you for giving your thoughts. If you found this beneficial, please like it and share it, because that helps this kind of a channel where just authentic conversation can happen, can be shared. So every single week, I tell you this and I mean this, it is the highlight of my week to be able to do this show. I'm so thankful for all of you that listen to it. I appreciate you all very, very much. And I will be back next week. I do have a friend that I'm going to be doing karaoke with. And if that's the case and I have to not do the show, I will put out flyers saying I'm not going to do the show. But my intention is to have a show on Christmas Day night. So please know that after that day happens, we can gather together, just talk about how the day went, or whatever we end up talking about. But I don't think we're going to take a Saturday off to do karaoke. But the way it is we're going to pick a night that's good for my friend's sister. And if that's a Saturday night, I will know ahead of time and put the feelers out. But thank you very much for being here, and I will see you next week. Good night, everyone.
I never made it, but I know